As we get older, we can definitely see a change in our hair, and I'm not talking the grays. But before commercialism has you pointing fingers at perimenopause or menopause, first, have a look at what's really happening with your hair. Are you experiencing hair fall? Before you check it off as female balding, run your fingers through your hair, roots to ends. Did a clump of hair drop on your hand? Does it happen each time? We naturally drop 50 to 100 hairs per day. So what you're seeing could be normal, or if your hair is damaged, that could be breakage. Does your hair seem abnormally flat? How long is your hair? How long are your layers? Long hair with zero layers will drag your hair down and feel flat. We are definitely not in the hit your 50s and chop your hair so you can demand to see the manager era anymore. I personally love long hair, but one length can be a drag. Literally, dragging your face down, flattening your hair, making your face seem round, adding layers adds volume and dimension. Does your hair seem thin? Does your stylist get finishing you're happy? Do you have a lot of gray but coloring it dark? Gray roots can make your hair seem thin in contrast with an artificial dark color at the ends. The list could go on, and I'm not trying to hair shame you, but honestly, to quickly summarize, if you have any concerns with your hair, you want to get a referral to a dermatologist first. Don't ask your friend or your hairstylist to diagnose what's happening because it could be nothing. Or there could be something underlying. And if you're seeing a menopause specialist, bring it up with them as well, as hormones could play a part. Lately, I have been dealing with an oily scalp that I probably had when I was like 11 or 12. Now at 54, once a week, I'm using a detoxifying shampoo that's perfect for me. I have a few faves, so check the show notes for my suggestions. So once you've gotten the clean bill of health, then next step is to look at, do you need a haircut or a reshape? Do you need a treatment? Have you been overusing keratin-based products, which can actually cause breakage with overuse or makes your hair super flat? Do you have buildup on your hair and need to use a detoxifying shampoo? And are you using the correct shampoo and conditioners for your hair type? Are you combing through your conditioner with a wide tooth comb before rinsing it out so it's evenly distributed throughout your entire hair shaft? Are you going to sleep with wet hair? Are you blow drying with the proper hair tool for you? See, there's a lot here going on. Actually, this is a great opportunity for me to mention Dyson versus Shark. I have both. Full disclosure, I was given both. And a humble brag, I worked with the Dyson Beauty team in Singapore for the launch of the original Airwrap, which I love. Now, Dyson is made to maintain your hair health, so the technology it uses stops your hair from overheating and getting damaged. I do also find, as a licensed hairstylist of over 35 years, that the motor is so efficient at keeping the hair healthy that you don't always get the volume you want with the Dyson. So, a Dyson is great if you want to maintain shiny, healthy hair, smoothness, and maybe your goal is reducing volume. If you're after longer lasting, voluminous hair and are okay with slightly less shine and luster comparatively than the Dyson gives, I love the Shark. Now, Shark PR didn't take me through it as intensely as Dyson, so I can't speak about how their technology works, but I can say it does not damage your hair. On my personal Instagram, I did a comparison with the Shark and the Dyson. The Shark, I feel, works with a drier heat, and that's why you get more volume. But with that, you also get more flyaways, which you could probably control with products. And just a reminder, my previous two episodes, I had covered skincare and makeup in my intros with links for product recommendations in my show notes. I am doing the same here for hair. Now, it's a really good idea to use a thermal protector. Thermal protectors help protect your hair shaft from styling tools and even the elements like UV rays, for example. My favorite is by Il's Formula. It says finishing serum on the package, which I personally feel they need to rebrand it. I tell them this all the time because it's more like a leave-in conditioner. So don't be afraid of the word serum. Also, while we are on the subject of what to not be afraid of for our hair, number one is silicone. People have this misconception that silicone is bad for your hair, that it builds up on the hair shaft. Most silicones used in hair products are water soluble. This means as soon as you stand in the shower and water hits your hair, that silicone is being rinsed off. Now, silicone will smooth flyaways. It will add shine, but it can typically be heavy. So, if you have fine hair, you want to stay away from silicone. If you have curly hair and you like to see volume, you might want to steer clear of silicone in your products. But if you want shine, smoothness, reduced volume, serums with silicones are great. Also, they help to lock in moisture as well as block out moisture, so humidity's effect on hair is minimized. Just research that the silicone in your favorite hair product is the water-soluble silicone. I feel that this whole misleading diatribe on silicone was influenced by the influencer. Those who do not know should not teach. Anyway, don't forget to check out the show notes for more on hair and your updated shopping list. Welcome to the Fuck You 50s, the podcast for women who refuse to tolerate the bullshit anymore. This is real talk, real stories, and a long overdue reality check. I'm your host, Andrea Claire, and this podcast is the filter-free voice you've been waiting for, with a dose of F-bombs. The Fuck You 50s, unfiltered, unapologetic, and undeniably needed. I'm excited to welcome my next guest, Jenny Amy, who is a female firecracker. With a BA from Carleton in History and Political Science and a master's degree in Library Sciences from the University of Toronto, she is a powerhouse to have in your corner for sure. Jenny had actively participated in the Canadian family law reform of the 70s, where women were being tossed aside after getting their MRS degrees, and their skirt-chasing husbands wanted to play house with a shiny new toy, intentionally leaving their wives with nothing but debt and children. She also played a key role in establishing a women's shelter in Halton, volunteered at a rape crisis center also in Halton region, and continuously advocates for many causes and is a card-carrying feminist. Okay, just kidding. I made that part up. She is a feminist, but are there cards? If so, I fucking want one. Jenny resides in Southampton, Ontario, where she and my Uncle Don, surprise, she's my Aunt Jenny, operate Chantry Breezes, the largest bed and breakfast in the area. A mentor to many, including myself. Aunt Jenny, welcome to the Fuck You 50s.
Okay, the recording is going. My speakers, my same system as the mic. Is that working for you now? No.
Okay.
It's still recording. Shall we stop it and start again?
No, that's fine, because I can edit all that bullshit out. Okay.
And I put the sign on the door that says "Go Bug Dawn."
Do you really have a sign that says that?
No, it says
You
that
should.
reception is not available at this time. Please contact Dawn Amy at blah 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 blah.
Oh, nice. Okay.
That's what it says.
Yes. Anyway, thank you.
But after you sent me all those questions, I went and got all my little books out that I've written in over the years about what I really think. But now I know what I think. It's so good.
And do you think some of your viewpoints have changed or not really?
No, but when you said, have I done my bucket list? I'm thinking, I have a bucket list.
Well, it's a weird kind of like question too. Like I'm kind of on the fence of whether I like the concept of a bucket list, because it's like, does that mean you're like, just getting ready to like, this is the end. I'm checking it off.
Well, no, but the other thing is I think sometimes if you make a list, it tends to limit you because you focus yourself back on that list because, you made that list and you really thought about it. I don't know if you're going to, I bought a book many years ago. I'm just going to look and see. It was July 1997. And
Perfect.
Jody was in a music or dance class or something. And so I had to wait for her, so I thought, well, I'm going to go over to Chapters because I have a $5 gift certificate. Spend money. So there was a book there called How to Succeed in Business Without a Penis. Secrets and Strategies for the Working Woman by a woman named Karen Salmon's son. So she had a little thing in there. It's a self-help book, So she had a little thing in there about what you should look at and think about. So I thought, well, okay, I'm gonna look at it. And it was things like, what would you do if you had unlimited time? What would you do if you didn't have any time? Where would you go? What would you like to do with, like with your life kind of thing?
Yeah.
If money's no object and all the rest of that stuff. And I had played with it. You were supposed to do 10 things. I never got to 10 in it. Well, one.
Okay.
The 10th one was say no more often.
Yes.
which I have trouble with sometimes. Your mother says to me, she says, you have no tattooed on your forehead. So when you look at it in the mirror, it says on.
I think I have the same tattoo.
I think you must. Yeah. I noticed that about you.
Oh my goodness. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not a bad thing. It just like I think sometimes I probably take on too much, but I also kind of feel like the things that I take on, I feel are for the greater good. Maybe I don't know. Is that an ego thing? I don't know.
No, I think that's a wonderful thing to think because too many people are thinking what's in it for me. And we have lots of examples of that in the world right
Yes.
now, which is kind of a challenge to meet other. And that's partly why I got involved in service in a service club like Rotary, because most of the people I knew from there were doing that out of a sense of community
Right.
and betterment and empathy
Yeah.
and consciousness.
Yeah.
And so that when I got asked if I would join, it wasn't just a feminist, like I got asked to join and, it's the first one in this club and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But it was, I respected and really liked most of the people that I mean, I didn't know everybody in that club. There were over 40 people,
Right.
but I knew, maybe at least a third of them
And was
from
that
their
Rotary, was that in Ottawa when you guys were in Ottawa?
Oakville,
Oakville, in
Oakville.
Oakville. So I guess because I'm gonna definitely use like a lot of this conversation we've already been having, of course. But so just to kind of like jump in, just so all of my listeners know, this is my Aunt Jenny. And am I allowed to reveal your age, Aunt Jenny?
Sure.
Okay, so my Aunt Jenny just turned 75, and I always felt she's been such like a positive influence on me and a bit of a female powerhouse, if that's okay to say.
Oh
And
gosh, I'm gonna blush.
I've always kind of felt that you're kind of like the strong matriarch of our family, and I've always looked
Well,
up to you. And I mean, and it's not just because you're the eldest, but it's just there's
oh,
so
I don't know
many
about
things.
that.
But I think that you've always had this I mean, again, for me, speaking for me, like just this positive influence of everything that you've done. And then, just the conversations that you and I have had even more kind of lately, which is also why I was like, I need to have you on my podcast because the things that you have done earlier on in your life. And like the one thing that we had talked about the how you were involved in the family law reform
Yeah.
in the late 70s. I mean that's amazing. So maybe you could speak a little bit about that. I mean we can kind of like summarize it if that's possible.
Okay, well, I guess I had parents who were really great at helping you um, go further down the path of your interests. So I guess, and I first got exposed to politics when I was a high school student and lived in Montreal. Because they had a speaker from one of the come one time from a parliamentarian, and he spoke and was quite fascinating. And then when I was in high school, I was in um, they had a school council. It was a Kitchener Waterloo, and
Hmm.
they had there's five high schools I think at the time, and they did a Dominion provincial convention, and they had somebody who represented federal politicians as well as provincial premiers. And so I wrote to Joey Smallwood because I got to do Newfoundland, and he sent me a letter back, and I was interested in their policies of the government at the time.
Hmm.
So I'm kind of a policy person. I'm not so much interested in the cult of personality as I am
Yeah.
in the policies.
Right.
So then we also had a Model UN assembly, which they still do. We also did a parliament,
Hmm.
and I was told that I was going to be leader of the opposition, and the opposition at the time, because it was Mr. Trudeau was in office, and so I thought, oh, so what do the conservatives who were the opposition, what are their policies? So I phoned around. I went to the library, and they didn't have too much because I mean we didn't have all the access to every single thing in the universe like we do now.
Yeah.
And so anyways, then I phoned the Conservative Party in Toronto. They had a phone number for their office, so I called and I told them what I wanted, and so they had two guys call my house and say hi. We're whatever their names were, and there's a conference going on in London next weekend, and we would take you down there. to go to it. And my
Nice.
dad said, not in a million years. You're not going with two strange men down, like this is the late 60s, right?
Yeah.
68. And there, so one of them was a lawyer. Anyways, they phoned back and talked to my dad and said they would love to come over and meet him. So I met Bob Stanfield. I met Bill Davis. I met half the cabinet, the Ontario cabinet, and they gave me tons of information about their policies. And so when we did the student parliament, we defeated the government. Just had to boast there because that was
Of
a big
course.
deal,
Hair flip.
I don't know if this is true or not, but I feel like the people that were involved in parliament in those days did things for the greater good, in their opinion.
Yeah.
As a university student, I went to Carleton,
Hmm.
so I had a chance to go and sit in the house when there was question period. And this was the olden days when they didn't have TV. So nobody was involved in performance art.
Right.
So there wasn't name calling. I
Yeah.
mean, and the honorable member from blah blah is mistaken.
Right.
Not you're an effing liar or
Yeah.
anything like that,
A bit
like
a bit
or
more respectful and like
very
here.
respectful in my experience. And I also read Hansard, which is the word by word report of what was said in the House of Commons on a particular day. So anyway, so when it came to stuff like family reform, family law reform and stuff like that, I had been involved in, and it was mostly in the Conservative Party
Hmm.
because that had been my introduction, and they had a women's wing of the party in the province. So I was involved in that. And um, it was quite, I mean, how you negotiated with government people, people that worked with the MPs and the ministers and stuff like that. And we had some fantastic women involved in this. And I mean, Mary Eberts was one that I remember. And there's two or three other women lawyers who have gone on to be, I mean, I think they're retired mostly now, but had gone on to do some phenomenal work. And the other thing is when you're in an organization like that,
Hmm.
I don't want to be really rude about it, but I met a higher percentage of women who were in the 50s in their age group to 60 roughly, and I was in my 30s. These women had married fairly young when they were in university, most of them. Um, Men who became doctors and lawyers,
Yeah.
and who now, and they had 3 to 5 kids, and blah blah blah, did all this stuff, but they had dropped out of university to support these men who went and became very successful in their field. And then this cute young thing comes along that they decide, the secretary or the nurse or whatever, and they decided, well, ditch the bitch and let's
Yeah.
just have a whole new relationship. And
Yeah.
so these women had that much, unless they had a family who had um, left them a lot of money. But most of
Right.
them ended up with almost nothing.
Yeah.
Didn't get the cottage, didn't get the house, didn't get the car, didn't have the artwork that, they
Yeah.
didn't,
Yeah.
they had nothing. And they hadn't continued their education because they were supporting their lover, you
They
know?
got their MRS degree, right? Wasn't that
Yeah,
like that kind
exactly.
of a thing
So
then?
what the hell? And
Yeah.
and even when I was at university, everybody said, "Oh, you got your MRS."
Yeah.
Well, in fact, I did end up with an MRS as well as an MLS, but never mind. Uh, I mean, it was shocking to me. I guess I hadn't met, my family lived in a regular sort of upper middle class neighborhood,
Yeah.
and you didn't see much of that.
Yeah. It's interesting. I had my previous guest that she's a family law lawyer. And so there's this new concept, or maybe it's not new, but it's like new to me. Like I was doing research to kind of see what topics I
Yeah.
could cover. And there's this concept of the gray divorce or the walkaway divorce. And it's women in their 50s are kind of deciding that they don't want to be
Enough
married
is enough.
anymore. Yeah, enough is enough is basically what it is. And so I was asking this lawyer, like, what happens? Because I know, like, in this day and age, there's a lot of women that work and have their own income, but there still is, I feel like maybe, and I don't know if I'm like the last generation of it, although people talk about trad wives, which is a whole other thing, right? But there's a lot of Gen X women in my age group that have not really been working, or they don't have the same kind of like it's not like the double income, lifestyle. And so what happens with these women that have nothing but want to leave? Like are you trapped then? And so unfortunately, I still think there's a lot of like hoops to jump through, but this lawyer was saying that yeah, there's a way to get through like a divorce that you can leave if you have no money. There's like different things that they can do, like interim support payments and things. But she was saying that, and just from my experience as a child, like I said, what happens if you have someone that is like in a job where they can do a lot of cash payments? And she said, yeah, well, that is a problem because they still have that. There's a lot of people that are freelancers or contractors or whatever, and they have what they have on paper to avoid paying alimony and child support. So
Well,
that is
they
still
also
a
avoid
fucking
paying
payment.
tax, you see, so that's
Yeah.
where CRA gets their knickers in a twist, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing is now it also is flip side. So I've met, not a lot, but a few certainly, who have had good, steady jobs
Hmm.
in whatever they've been doing and had a decent income. And their spouse decides they don't feel like working anymore. They're not going to take care of the kids or anything. They're just going to golf or
Yeah.
they're going to sit around at home because they don't want to work. And yeah, that's kind of an issue because then she has to pay them alimony
Yeah.
and she has to split her, the
The
health
yeah.
insurance and all the rest of that stuff. And a large part of their pension, her pension, he gets half the pension.
Yeah.
But so anyway, it's so some women are really annoyed about that, and I'm thinking, well, it used to be the other way around.
Yeah, that's
So
that's true
now at
too.
least everybody's got equal pay in a way.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I was talking about that with one of my B&B clients this morning too, about how, equal pay is still not equal pay, even though it was in the 1960s when that act came in. It's
Yeah.
still like about an 80%
Yeah.
women make it paid.
So when you were working on that family law reform, like
Yeah.
was there things that you had like worked with like with obviously with the team of people where you guys had kind of put into play, or was it just kind of opening up doors or
I think it was opening doors. It
yeah.
was having that relationship as a member of an executive body in that political party,
Hmm.
and you have access to the people that have run for office,
Yeah.
and you say this is an issue that needs to be resolved. And sometimes, as I think it was Bob Elgee said to me one time, he was a cabinet minister in the provincial government. We were at a meeting and something was brought up and they just said, well, we're not going to do anything. We're not going to take that as an issue, And
Hmm.
I said, why wouldn't you do that? I mean, that's clearly an issue that needs work. And he said, this guy's got degrees coming up the yin yang, and he says, well, Jen, as we say down at the farm, a turd don't stink till you kick it.
That's a good takeaway.
Yeah, well, it's true,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Something can lie there like housing issues, like, you know, uh, beating your wife, stuff like that. That
Right.
can sit around for hundreds of years before somebody finally says that's enough.
Yeah.
We got to fix this.
Yeah. Being 75 years old, you've gone through so much in your life, right? And then when you were telling me about being in Halton or like yeah, Halton, right? Like in
Yes.
Oakville and helping open up the first women's shelter.
Sheridan College had a women's center at that point, and it was in the 90s.
Were you working at Sheridan College then or
No,
not
not
yet?
at that point. No, I was in the public library system.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, they had a women's conference. I think it was about 125 women there from all over Halton, at least, invited to come for the day.
Hmm.
And then they had some good speakers and everything else. And then they broke us into 2 or 3 or 4, I guess it was 4 groups. And they said, go away in your group and in one of these classrooms and sit and talk to each other about what you think the most pressing issue is for women now, and then come back and report.
Yeah.
So the group that I was with came back and said, the worst thing that happens to women that we know is that you don't feel safe in your own home. And a lot of us don't have that problem. We feel safe in our home. But there's a lot of women, and there were women at that meeting who were not safe in their home. It's a horrible thing to have to go through in life and not feel safe.
Yep.
So we thought, okay, so how can we do stuff? What can we do about this? So we got a little team together. I think there were about 6 or 8 of us, and said, we're going to work on this. Like, we're making a time commitment. One of the women was a young Black woman who had 2 kids and was a welfare mom, lived in, a supported housing and everything else. And so she and I hit it off, and we started really working hard. I mean, the others worked too, it was just so we said, we got to talk about this with people who make decisions.
Yeah.
And so I had also been helping with the Rape Crisis Center, just, like friends who started that. It was called the Halton Rape Crisis Center. And then, so I knew some people on the police force, women more, but also I had met a few of the officers that were, higher up in rank.
Yeah.
And then they said, well, if you're going to do this kind of thing, you're going to need to talk to the justice system and the enforcement people and the psychologists and what happens, what happens if somebody calls and needs help? What happens? Well, sometimes the police department can help, but it's much more, at that time, it wasn't normal.
Right.
It was just, somebody took her to the hospital, and they said, oh, well, we'll patch you up. How did this happen? Well, gee, that's too bad.
And that was the 90s?
I'm trying to remember how far back that was, and I would have to look, but I think it was 80s.
Yeah.
Like the 80s. In fact, it was actually, no, I'm sorry, I go back. It was the 70s, late 70s, because Don and I moved to Ottawa in 78. And I was well involved in that. And we had somebody from the Secretary of State Department federally who was charged with helping organizations that wanted to do something about this in their community, and was able to access some funding, and if you had all your ducks in a row. And
Right.
so we figured that it would take us about 5 years to get everything lined up, to find a building that we could, and fundraise enough that we could find something that we could buy and get all the support for. And so I moved to Ottawa after we'd been working for about a year and a half on it.
Okay.
And so
it seems kind of like, I mean, I guess you have to get all the ducks in the row, as you say, but it seems crazy that it takes 5 years to get
well,
something.
but so this is an issue that people have been living with for millennium.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you need to have to talk to like, so who's going to intervene? Well, the police department. So what's the police department's attitude towards spousal abuse? Yes, you have to have 2 officers, because sometimes, you got the guy's attacking her or whatever. I mean, and there are, like a small percentage of cases where the female is the abusive partner, but
Right.
they're much less. But anyway, so you have this issue of the first responder needs to be sympathetic or have something that they can do with this person who needs to get the heck out of there. So you either arrest the guy and take him out, or what can you do for her? Is
Right.
anything, so is it better and there's children involved too. So Children's Aid Society's involved.
Yeah.
And so you got to work through how all these agencies work. How can you get them to work together? How can you find a place for people? And do you find that place by fundraising and buying a house and then making it like a fort?
Right.
So people can't get into it. Like, how do you do all that? And we were working our way through all of that kind of stuff.
Sorry, I was just gonna say, do you know, were there other like organizations that had something like this already that you could kind of look at what they had done and see, kind of learn
Oh yeah, there were
yeah.
some women's shelters set up in other places. Toronto had 1 or 2.
Yeah.
London, mostly it was bigger cities
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff. But yes, so then there's a whole network of those people.
Right.
But, often people start out isolated in their community. The people, whether they're people who are in trouble or people who want to help,
Right.
and often it's because you've got a relative or a friend or a neighbor that you think, and then people say, don't get involved because you know what's going to happen, that they're going to come after you too if they're really that bad. To continue this story, we went and lived in Ottawa for 2.5 years, and so when we came back, I moved back to Oakville,
Yeah.
and somebody said to me, "Hey, that group you were working with?" And I said, "Yeah." They said they're going to open the house in September. We moved back in June, I think,
Yeah.
and I thought, wow,
Amazing.
that's like fantastic.
Yeah.
It all developed from there, and unfortunately there's still a well-developed system for women, but it's not big enough because the problem hasn't changed. What's changed is that you can sometimes get them out for at least 6 weeks,
It's yeah, it's unfortunate that
and
we've
a lot of people
done
go
here.
back because it's too hard with no money, no job, 3 kids, you know and somebody that wants to kill you.
I had a client in Singapore that was in a situation that and she was an expat, and she had called her parents back home and told them what was going on, and they told her, because of the country that she was from, that she's better off to stay in her situation than for her to move home. And she'd come to get her hair done and tell me stories, and I didn't
And
even know what
sob
to
the whole way
say.
through.
Yeah, and I'm not equipped for that, and it's just to hear just women being trapped, it's I have no words. It's really frustrating and upsetting.
Yeah,
Um,
and that's one of the things I learned in university, because when I went to Carleton, I was a residence fellow, which meant you were you were trained in helping people to a point,
mhm,
and then you had to learn where the point was, where you had to refer them to
mhm,
somebody who was a professional
yeah,
psychologist or whatever. So that was great training
yeah.
for the rest of my life.
Oh,
Anyway,
yeah. Anyway, what's Rotary? Because I always get confused about what Rotary is.
it's a service club. It was
Yeah.
started in 1905 by a guy named Paul Harris, who was a new young lawyer in Chicago, and he didn't know anybody. And he thought, well, I'd like to meet other people. And so he invited people that also, I believe these guys were all in the building he had his office in. And there was an architect and another, I don't know, another lawyer, but anyway, people in different fields,
Yeah.
accountants and stuff like that. So he started this group of people, and after a few years, they decided they should be doing things to help other people. The motto is service above self, and then they have what they call a four-way test in Rotary, and that is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendship? And will it be beneficial to all concerned? So Rotary has these, they're interested in integrity and in fairness and all that kind of stuff, which is, quite laudable.
Mm-hmm.
So the organization went on until the 1980s
Mm-hmm.
with only men. They started it's Rotary International, so it's in over 2,000 countries.
Mm-hmm.
That's not right. Sorry, it's 2,000 clubs I think it's well over, I can't remember the exact number of clubs, but it's in the hundreds.
Right.
And there's 1.2 million roughly members
Yeah.
around the world. So in the 1980s, they so there were some people in California, women that wanted to join, and these clubs said, "Sure, you're an entrepreneur in your community, you make money, you do good things for people. We'd like to have you in a club." And then other people said, "You can't have women; they're gonna mess it up."
Yeah.
You know how
God, they
women
they
mess
belong
things
in the
up.
kitchen.
Yeah.
They can make our snacks.
But then they took it to the Supreme Court in the US, and they said you can't discriminate like that anymore. So the rule was then changed. It was the fall, I think, of '89.
Right.
And so that's when I was asked to join the Oakville Trafalgar Rotary Club.
That's
And I
great.
asked them how many people they would lose if I joined. And they said 5. I said, why would you trade 5 for 1? And they said, well, it's time. And I said, why did you pick me? And they said, we think you can put up with the crap. So, because I had been the first woman on this and first woman on that. And I
Yeah.
know that I break up the poker night and broke up the fishing trip and all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
unless they decided to exclude me, which the people who were in charge of those things said was not appropriate. So,
Right.
I mean, I don't care if you go fishing. It's no
Yeah.
skin off my,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
On the other hand, it is a bonding experience, right? It's
Yeah.
like why people have all these other meetings to
Yeah.
try and So anyhow, I said, well, I'm tired of being the first and the only. Please find somebody else and I'll join with her. So they did.
Nice. Yeah. That's great.
And then so we both
So
joined
they
the
lose two
Club
or 10
19.
members then?
No, actually, in fact, they only lost 3. We were really cheeky, Gay McDermott and I. We used to order them. We ordered champagne on the anniversary of our first year,
Hmm.
and we said we wanted to congratulate them on their foresight. So I mean, they of course then started asking more women to join, and the
And then
club.
it
I
just
mean,
got better.
well, yeah, but more people with good ideas, and it's in so many communities. I'm in a small town now I mean, it's part of. There's 2 communities in Saugeen Shores, and Southampton's one of them. And there's 3 clubs now. So there's about 90 people who are doing good work. But, we help build playgrounds in the school. We help put an MRI machine in the hospital. We help with the emergency department. We
Mm.
help with trail management, like for tourism and trails and stuff, in all sorts of things. And we also, that's one thing that sets Rotary apart, is you do stuff internationally. So
Right.
Rotary is the only non-governmental organization that has a seat at the UN.
Huh. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Um, the last time I was in Singapore, when was Jeff and I there? Was that last year or the year before? Now I forget. But
The international conference was there.
yeah, we were it was just so funny, like seeing all these people where they had like did they have t-shirts on or they had like labels? And I remember getting into one of the elevators and I was like, oh, I'm like such a child, right? I'm like, oh, my Aunt Jenny is part of Rotary. Do you know her, Jenny Amy? I literally fully said that, and they're like, no, there's a lot of us around. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. I went to the 100th anniversary in 2005 in Chicago with a friend, and I'm addicted to coffee. So I got up the elevator, and there were only 3 people at the Starbucks, and I thought, so I ran over and got myself a coffee. And as I'm walking back, there's a short man walking along, black guy with a full like garb from his country,
Yep.
with a lot of several other people. And my daughter had gone on one of these polio plus trips that Rotary ran, to help get people feeling comfortable about bringing their children to be immunized.
Right.
So she had gone to Togo and Burkina Faso. And she said, oh, Mom, maybe you'll see this guy. And I said, Jody, there's going to be 45,000 people at that meeting. There's no way I am going to see this guy. I mean, that's the size of what? Milton?
Yeah.
Yeah, at the time. Anyway, so I'm walking back with my coffee, and this guy is walking toward me. He's from Africa. He's got this badge on, and it has 4 letters, and his name is 4 letters. So I look and I say, Bawa? And he said, yes. And I said, Je suis la mère de Jody. He said, la petite fille de Canada. I said, oui. So, anyways, he was the guy that had led the team from
Yeah, yeah.
Togo and Burkina Faso, where she had helped with 30 other people to
Yeah.
encourage people to get their children immunized. Just like the chances
The
of
chances
that
are
happening.
1 in 45,000.
Yeah.
What are the ages for people to join in Rotary?
Usually you have to be over 30.
Okay.
In the old days, it was 40.
Right.
And then in every single club, you were supposed to have like one librarian, one lawyer, one accountant, one engineer, so that it was the idea of the Rotary was all different fields of endeavor are joined together, and so you use all the different skill sets that are there to make things happen for good in the world. One of the guys in my club, who has been a district governor, and he coined, I think he coined this term, but I'm not sure. He calls it do-goodery.
Huh. Well, I like that do-goodery.
Me too. I really think Tony did a stellar job there. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a
And
great
so I
term.
guess you were the librarian in your Rotary then?
Yeah.
Yeah. They should have hairstylists in the Rotary.
Well,
That's
why
important.
not?
Everybody needs to look good, right?
Everybody needs to look the way they want to look.
Yeah. Uh, what changes in society have surprised you the most during your lifetime?
That's a hard question. I mean, I think when you look back, you can see the evolution of a lot of stuff.
Hmm.
And I remember, I mean, the internet is huge, right?
Yeah.
And it's made us so much more interconnected and so much more disconnected in the same time.
Yeah.
And that's why I think it's a really fascinating thing. I am quite concerned about AI.
Yeah. A lot of people are.
Noam Chomsky calls AI um, plagiarism software.
Yeah. It's scary too, just like not only with all the deep fakes that are out
Yeah.
there and with like video and I guess some audio as well, but it's just the fact that it's going to take over so many jobs. And then it's like
But
then what?
who's letting this happen? And I mean, somebody else was saying to me that they said that AI can take huge amounts of data and distill it down very quickly to identify trends and stuff like that.
Mm,
And I mean, so that's a very good thing. If you're looking at medical issues and I don't know, mechanical issues, I don't know what all else that might be.
yeah.
But so that's great, you know. But the other point is they're getting all this stuff off the internet, and there's a lot of misinformation on the internet.
So much misinformation.
And I when I taught at Sheridan College, one of the courses I taught in the library technician program, but I also taught a few general educations. Like I did history, I did entrepreneurship, and I did another one called Caught in the Web. And this was in the 90s, sort of mid 90s.
Yeah.
And I used to tell the class, Jenny Amy could put up a whole website on cancer and what are the most effective treatments, how you can identify cancer. Jenny Amy is a librarian. She has no medical background except she took a first aid course once. You have no idea who put what up there
Yeah.
and whether they had any background at all, and they're not edited. There's no book publisher that's going to get sued for, you know, misinformation or libel or whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's just there, and it means zero. And maybe that's
It's
my bias because I'm a librarian, but
Yeah. But I also think too, like this is why I have such a problem with influencers when it comes to my industry, because there's
yeah.
so many people that are on there that are touting like the like skincare, makeup, like hair products, and they don't know what they're talking about. And sure, it might look good on them. And I know that's super shallow, you know, like
Well, I don't know.
but
I
that's
just
just
think bullshit babbles brains no matter what you're talking about.
so like one of the things that they say I is also good for is like in the legal realm, right? It can go through it, it can like read documents, it can prepare things, but these are all things that like junior lawyers would be doing.
But
And in order
AI
to
makes stuff up. They've had at
oh
least one case that I am aware of where AI made it up. So
yeah,
the defense team went back to look for where this case is, and it's not a case. It never
yeah,
ever was.
where it's beneficial is that it'll kind of do some of the basic research and
Well, great gobs of data, and it can
yeah,
distill it and
yeah.
find it fast.
But you're, to my understanding, is you're not supposed to, in a legal realm, like just present what you got from AI. But it kind of cuts off like a big portion of time and whatever. But then the other thing that it's like, well, in order to become that, you know, if we're using lawyers as an example, to become that kind of superior kind of like lawyer that knows what they're doing, you need to understand working through all that nitty gritty and the research and like you need to like pay your dues, right?
Yeah,
And it's like if you don't have an opportunity to pay your dues, then what are we doing to that industry, right? And that of course
yeah,
and that works with like any industry, right?
sure.
How have you seen the role of women evolve over the years, over the decades, I guess?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's certainly more women involved in business and in every profession.
Hmm.
Um, the skilled trades is still a slow area.
I was just
Yeah,
gonna say too, I mean, it is unfortunately still a very sexist, like, industry, right? And one of my guests that I had recently is an interior designer, and she talked a bit about that, about, just wanting to work with, like, strong women and surround herself with, like, more strong women, and that, yes, it's a slow climb, but there are people that are in the
yeah,
trades, but
yeah,
yeah, it's still, they don't.
yeah. It's not. I, I mean, I know people who have hired women to do that kind of stuff because their daughter wanted to do it or something like that, But
Yeah,
they're just as confident in as anybody else. It's just it's not friendly right at the moment. But
yeah,
banking wasn't friendly. Libraries weren't friendly.
yeah,
Nobody was, like you stayed home and took care of the kidlets. And then
yeah,
we dropped you off the end of the pier if we got tired of you. Things change slowly, as much as we like to think that it's a fast-paced universe. It's
mhm,
not. What is it? The hurrier I go, the behinder I get.
mhm. Hopefully, just things that have set women back, like with the
Um,
abortions and
yeah, some of the meetings we used to have with the crisis center or at Sheridan College with all the women getting together. And I remember one meeting, there were a lot of men involved, and it was a woman's issue, like rape or like uh, spousal abuse
yeah.
tends to be considered a woman's issue,
Mhm.
when really the perpetrators it should be an issue that addresses what's going on with the perpetrator, not what the victim. But I've just been reading Mel Robbins' book, The Let Them Theory.
Okay, I don't know that.
So she's fascinating, but and it's if people want to feel something, let them do it. Like you can't change stuff.
Yeah,
You can't change other people. The only thing you can change is yourself. If they feel that they can't work with the woman, then let them not work with the woman.
yeah,
And so that's why I think there's companies that start up that are just women.
yeah,
Because hey, you don't want to work with us, fine, but we're good engineers, we're good librarians, we're good at medical, we're good at whatever, you know, building birdhouses or whatever.
yeah.
So let them do what they want, but then let you do what you need to do.
I feel like and maybe it's just like things that I've gone through growing up and even like as an adult, whatever. And I feel that now I really prefer to work on projects where it's very female centric. Um, it's not that there aren't great guys to work with, but I feel like I'm happier now when I get on a job and it's all women.
Somebody asked me one time, this was a journalist, about joining Rotary. And she said, "Why would you do that? Like you're quite the feminist." And I said, "It's easier to talk to people about issues if you're not standing at their door spitting at them. If you go in and say, 'Let's talk about this.'
Yeah,
Like, what's so awful about me that you don't think I should be playing in your backyard? Like
yeah,
what is this? And why is that your backyard? I don't really get it." I think the more people involved in discussions, uh, it's better.
yeah, for sure. I definitely have been in conversations with people where it's not really a conversation.
It's called a lecture, I think.
I really love that we finally got to do this, and I
Yeah.
really love just everything that you've done and just the influence that you have on me and hopefully other people when they hear some of the things that you've done. And we're at a crucial point where there are things that are kind of maybe going back in time for women, and I definitely don't want to see that happen.
Yeah.
And just I think that we definitely need to make sure that we stand up and support,
Yeah. And I
not
mean,
women.
I mean, not everybody can do that. And I guess one of my things I always say to people is you have to own what you are and who you are. Like if that's
Yeah,
not your gig, and if you feel really uncomfortable doing stuff like that, then just support the people whose opinions you appreciate. You decide what kind of day you're going to have. So you decide how you're going to react. Somebody says F you,
yeah,
or somebody says, like, so I got all involved in streetscaping up here. We have curb extensions. There's some people here who don't like them, and they see my name in their head whenever they see that, and they hate it. So they phone me every once in a while saying, "Jenny, blah, blah, blah. And I say, thanks for letting me know what you think.
That's all that needs to be
I
done.
mean, it's there,
Yeah,
and that's the way it is.
I like it. It's simple.
It's simple. I guess the other thing that I try and remember, because I took that when I worked with the Rape Crisis Center, they did some training on bias. And you don't realize it until you get it thrown in your face, but every single one of us has some kind of unconscious bias.
Yeah,
How are you viewing those? What's your unconscious bias?
right.
See,
Yeah,
you see
yeah,
a woman walk in the room of 17 carpenters. What? And she says she's a carpenter. What's your unconscious bias?
yeah,
And so if you ask yourself that, no matter what situation you're in, it really it stops you for a minute. You think, why do I think that?
yeah,
Working with other people to achieve your goals is always, in my opinion, the best way.
yeah,
Everybody's got opinions, and they probably have some good and valid reasons for those opinions.
yeah.
Okay, I'm done.
Okay. End scene. Thanks for tuning in to the Fuck You 50s. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to follow and rate the podcast. And we'd love to connect with you on Instagram, so be sure to follow us at the Fuck You 50s. The Fuck You 50s is hosted by Andrea Claire and edited and produced by Bespoke Productions Hub. See you next time.